Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Denise and today we're going to be making carrot cake cupcakes. I'm going to do this a little different today. I'm going to make it real easy for you. This is a fantastic recipe. It's easy to make, and so I'm going to divide it up into 3 bowls. And so I'll show you the ingredients that go into the first bowl and then into the second bowl and the third bowl, and then we'll combine everything, put it into cupcakes, and you can make this into a cake as well. It's a 3-layer cake. So let me bring you down here and we'll jump right into it. We'll get started with bowl number 1, and I'll include all the ingredients in the description box for you. But right now, let's get on down to it. So in the first bowl, we're going to have 1.25 cups of applesauce. And I thought I had a jar of applesauce here, but I didn't have. So I was frantically running around a few minutes ago, and I saw that I had something in the refrigerator. Now, I could have used oil. You can use, if you don't have applesauce, then you can just use oil in place of applesauce for this recipe. I just don't want to use more calories than I have to. So I found these in my refrigerator. It's these little individual packs. So I'm using organic cinnamon applesauce. If you don't want to buy a jar of applesauce, then I can tell you it takes just over 4 of these, and each of these is 3.2 ounces or 90 grams. And to that, we're going to add 2 cups of sugar and 3 eggs. So now let me just mix all this together. And everything's going to eventually come back to this big bowl, so that's why I started in a large bowl. And if you don't have 3 mixing bowls, then you can just add everything to this one. And then as I'm going to bowl 2 and bowl 3, then you can just add it all into this first one. I measure my flour for accuracy, and all-purpose flour is 120 grams per cup. That's 2 cups if you're measuring, and 240 grams if you're weighing. A teaspoon of baking soda, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. This is a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then a teaspoon of cinnamon. And so now I'll whisk these dry ingredients together. So that's bowl number 2. Okay, so this one's the fun part. This is all the fun stuff we get to put in. So yesterday I made a bunch of homemade bone broth again, chicken stock. I needed to process a bunch of carrots, and so I knew I was going to do this today. And so here's some freshly grated carrots. I now will add 1 cup of the sweetened coconut flakes. I guess if you don't like coconut, you could leave this out. I think the cake would miss something if you didn't have this. And now 1 cup of chopped nuts. I'm going to do a mix of pecans and walnuts. You can leave the nuts out if you're allergic to nuts. 2 more ingredients. So this is going to be a teaspoon of vanilla. This is going to be 1 cup of crushed pineapple, and it's with the juice. So those are our 3 bowls. I'm mixing this just like I whisked the dry ingredients together. So this was our bowl number 1. Just add number 2 to number 1. As I've said on my giant cookie series, once you add the flour, you don't want to over mix it because it'll start to form gluten, and then your end product could be tough. Now we'll add bowl number 3. All right. So now we can start filling our cupcake tins. So I prepared these tins a few minutes ago. I put a little bit of rice in the bottom of each tin, and then I put my cupcake liner. Have you ever picked up a cupcake and you get oil from the cupcake on your hands? This is a little kitchen hack. Just put a few grains of rice in the bottom, and then put your cupcake liner in, and then fill it, and you won't have that problem. I'm making jumbo cupcakes today, so I'm going to fill them to 1/2 to 2/3 full. Again, you can make this into a 3-layer cake. I do that all the time. These are going to go off to the oven. I'm going to bake them at 350 degrees, and I'll be back when they're finished. So stay tuned. All right, so our carrot cake cupcakes are in the oven right now baking, and we're going to make the cream cheese frosting together. So I'll include the ingredients in the description box below. You'll need 8 ounces of cream cheese softened, and you'll need 1/2 cup of butter. So you'll need this, and then you'll need a teaspoon of vanilla and 1 pound of powdered sugar. That may sound like a lot, but once you get powdered sugar a little bit wet, then it's like cotton candy. It just melts into nothing. So we're going to get all this together. The first round of cupcakes has come out of the oven. These are blazing hot, so I'm going to put them back on the counter and let them cool off while we finish making the frosting. So I measured out my powdered sugar. So let me just get this mixed in. Okay, so our cream cheese frosting is made. Okay, I'm back. The cupcakes are cool now, and I want to show you a little tip on how to get the frosting set up so we can pipe it in one of these piping bags. So it's actually a little pro tip. It's the 2-bag technique, and I have a couple of bags here and a piping tip. And so I'm going to bring you down and show you how all this works. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this 1M tip. It's a big star tip. So I'm going to put this in my bag, and it's not open yet. You can see that it's completely closed off. So I'm going to show you how a beginner would do this. I know about where I'm going to cut it anyway, but I want to show you. So I push this to the end, and this tells me about where I need to cut it. So I would cut it about here, and then I pull the end off, and then I keep pushing this tip just enough so that the frosting doesn't come out. So that's one bag. Okay, this one's ready to go. This is the outer bag. Okay, so this is the 2-bag method. So I'm going to set this one aside, and I'll show you the other bag. We're going to fill this one up. So the first thing to do, if you've never used one of these piping bags, is to fold it over. Let me bring you down here a little bit. So fold it over. So then I just hold it open. The reason you fold this bag over is so the end of the bag stays clean and you don't get frosting all over your hands and it becomes a big mess. You can even put this into a glass, a drinking glass, and fill it from there. But I've done this thousands of times, and so this is how I do it. I just bend it over as far as I can, and then I use a long teaspoon and I start filling. But I'm going to bring you down and show you how I do this. So then I just push this as far down into the tip as I can. And my frosting is a little bit loose, so that's fine. It's going to work even easier. If you have a real stiff frosting, it might be harder to get it down into the tip of the bag, but just work at it. As I go, I push it and try to get rid of any air bubbles. And you don't have to use a piping bag. I just want to show you this technique. So you see now the bag is full almost to the end. The tip is still closed. And then I hold it with my index finger, my thumb, and I twist. And there are some ties, some twist ties that people use on these. I don't, but you can. And I'll bring in my outer bag. So this was bag number 1, or the outer bag, and this is the inner bag. So now what I do, I'll give you another little pro tip. These are the baked cupcakes, and I always put them in the container they're gonna go in before I frost them. That way I don't have to pick them up and touch them too much before I give them to either a friend or a client. So let me bring you down. So you can pick up these containers a lot of places. Okay, so now back to our 2-bag method. So what I'm going to do is cut the end off of this bag, and then I'm going to put this bag into the outer bag. And so that's the 2-bag method. It keeps the outer bag clean. So then when the inner bag is empty, I can just pull that out, and my outer bag is still clean. So then I can insert another bag of frosting, either the same kind. I will use the same kind today, but if you were switching colors or whatever, then it's easy to just swap in and out. So that's just a little pro tip for you to have. I'll show you what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to do a little swirl. And so you can imagine doing this much frosting. If you were then going to put it in these containers, you would get it all over your hands and it would get on the container. But this way, I can just close the container and they're ready to go. Okay, so now I've finished this first bag. And so all I have to do, you see, I just pull it out. And I can discard this inner bag and fill up a new one. Okay, now it's time for the taste test, the favorite part, right? So here we go. It feels so moist. It's so soft. Very moist. I can taste the coconut and the nuts. I like the frosting. Good combination. Very light and airy. When I was a kid, I wouldn't even dream of eating carrot cake cupcakes. What's the meaning of vegetables in my dessert? But now I just love them. It's one of my favorites. You can see all the nuts right here. Carrots. You don't even taste the carrots. So if you're afraid of the vegetables in your desserts like I was, thinking, ew, how gross. It's, you don't even taste it. It's just really flavorful, but it all blends so well together. It's a nice mix. I recommend these only because, well, because they're so good, but also because everyone I give these to, all my clients that I've baked them for in the past, everybody wants the recipe. Everyone says, oh my gosh, they're so good. And you can make these. You saw it's a 1, 2, 3 bowl. I've made this really easy for you to just combine all 3 of those together. If you're starting out, just use 3 bowls and just add the ingredients that you need and keep it in little blocks, and then just start combining it all together and just mix it. Put it in your cake pans and bake it in the oven. And like I said, it's 3 tiers. It's 3 8-inch tiers. I think it would also make 3 9-inch tiers. You can make this into bars as well. You can put it in a 9 by 13 baking dish if that's what you have. And then 1 recipe of this cream cheese frosting. Put that on top after it cools. Make sure that it cools. I'm going to get back into this, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen today. And as always, be safe and be well.